All right. Well, welcome to the podcast and video series, Empowering Her. And I just want to welcome Ashley Davis. Ashley, thank you so much for being here. And I don't want to steal any of the limelight from you because you have an incredible story. And so
Oh, thank you.
let's shift it to you. And so, why don't you just kind of give us a background once you left high school and kind of where you are at right now?
Yeah, sure. So, prior to graduating high school, I do want to kind of set the background. So, I grew up in a small town of 2,000 people in Ohio. I graduated with about 65 other students in my graduating class. It was my senior year of high school. I had to actually quit all of my sports my senior year to be able to go and get a job so that I could start preparing to provide for myself in college. And that was kind of a bummer, and it was a big deal, and it kind of threw me into the real world a little bit early. But so then I picked up from Ohio. I moved out to Utah, where I went to school at Weber State University for just a brief semester, and I hated it. And I had to work a lot to make ends meet while I was out there. I ended up moving back to West Virginia. And I tried to go to WVU, West Virginia University. And while I was there, I also worked two jobs. And I began to fail my classes because I was working from 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. at the local hospital as a housekeeper. And then from about 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. every day, I was babysitting in the morning. So that left me about 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. to do all of my studies and all of my classes. And it was it was a packed schedule. It was 12 credits. And it was truly impossible for me. And I didn't have a mentor or a leader to like look up to. And it was one of the darkest times of my life is not being so lost and not really knowing where to go. So eventually I failed out. I failed all of my classes, and I thought to myself, all right, Ashley, you've got two decisions. You can keep going at this path and at this pace where you're failing all of your courses and just burning rubber at this point, just so burnt out, or you can focus on surviving. And I thought to myself, all right, I've got to survive this moment. So that's what I did. I dropped out and I started to work as a nanny full time. So I stayed in West Virginia for about 2.5 years, and I was nannying there. Eventually, I just thought to myself, okay, there's got to be something else out there. You know, it was really difficult to see all of my friends graduate college with their degrees and go on to work in their fields. And I was really, feeling left out and feeling left behind. And I thought, I don't know, like there's more to life. There has to be. So I reconnected with an old friend. And you'll see throughout the theme of this that networking and making connections with people and building those relationships is going to be a theme in my story. So I reconnected with an old friend who lived in San Francisco, California, that I went to school with in Utah. And she had a bedroom open in her house out in San Francisco. So I moved there. I thought, okay, well, I can get a nanny job there. So when I got to California, I started nannying for a family who had two children, and their father was the CEO of his own company, of a waste management company. And it was really then having that exposure to somebody in a position of leadership that I began to understand, okay, there are more things out there, and I can do things without a degree. I just have to really work for it and figure out how to get there. But I had no idea. I still had no idea at that point.
You know what I like about that is this is kind of the reason why I started this, and like it wasn't until I don't know about 6 months ago that I was aware of the mainstream careers, which I would consider like
Right.
engineering, medicine, and things like that. But about 6 months ago, I found out that there were careers in recruiting and marketing and sales, and
Oh, yeah.
and so it's funny how it kind of resonates with me, and I know that'll resonate with my students. Is that it took somebody to get that exposure to go, oh, there are other things.
Yeah.
So I think that is a great lesson, and I'm so glad that you shared that.
Yeah, I definitely think exposure is if you can't do anything else for yourself, trying to put yourself in a position to be surrounded by other people that, are successful and may have knowledge to transfer to you, that is huge. It's incredible what that can do for you. So while I was there, I burnt out on nannying, and I thought, all right, well, California is expensive. I can't nanny here forever. This is not sustainable. So I picked a place on a map. I am truly just a wanderlust. I'll just go wherever the wind blows me. And I thought, well, Austin, Texas looks great. So I picked up and moved to Austin, Texas, and got a nanny job and decided, oh my gosh, nannying is just, I can't do this anymore. And then again, I reconnected with an old friend that I went to school with for that one semester in Utah. And she worked at Google. And she said to me, we went out to dinner, and she said to me, Ashley, we're hiring and we're really looking for people that possess the kind of initiative and drive that you have. Like, are you interested? And I laughed at her. I was like, I am just a nanny. What is my resume going to look like? How can I tweak my resume to, be something that Google wants to look at, right? Well, I did, and she referred me, and I prepped really hard for this interview, and I ended up getting the role. And the role was UX research coordinator, and what UX stands for is user experience. So to kind of give some background on that really quick, user experience research is like, say you have say there's a toy that somebody made for a child. What instead of surveying that child, like, oh, do you like playing with this toy? Do you like how it feels? Do you like the color? Instead of asking them the questions, you give them the toy and you observe how they're interacting with that toy. And that's the kind of research that we do. So I was more on the coordination side of things. So I wasn't conducting the research. I was just purely like operational, handling all the logistics, scheduling participants for these studies, things like that. And it was in that role, I was there for about 2 years. It was in that role that I decided, oh my gosh, this is my opportunity. This is my foot in the door. And I found my first mentor at that company. And she was my manager, and she just saw something in me that nobody had ever seen before. And it made me believe in myself that much more. And that's where I gained the majority of my skill set that I have today that I use in my current role. And it was that mentorship where we met weekly, and we had a running document of interview questions. I wasn't interviewing anywhere, but we had a running document of interview questions that she would ask me to prepare answers to, that I would go over with her weekly, and she would say, okay, well, here's your experience. How can you make this transferable to a higher position if that's what you want to do? So that was incredible. So from there, I moved companies a few times, and eventually I got my role at Peloton, where I'm at currently, and it is my absolute dream job. So I'm UX operations lead there, and I am the sole person building up my team, whereas at Google and Facebook, I was one of hundreds of thousands who was doing my role, and now at Peloton, I'm the only one, and I get to collaborate and create seamless experiences for people across, the research teams at Peloton. It's really great. And yeah, that's where I'm at.
What I really find amazing about this is, and I have absolutely, I have a college degree, and of course, depending on, if you want to be an engineer, if you want to be a doctor, if you want to be a nurse, you have to go and get a degree. But I feel like sometimes degrees, college, for just the sake of getting a degree, is kind of shoved down everybody's throat. Because even if you look at, like, we have vocational schools, and even those they're kind of like the like this, the evil step brother, step sister, that, like, everybody's like, yeah, there's a votech. And so there's all these wonderful careers that we just don't get exposure to. And here you are, it's like, go get a degree and you can do great things. And here you are showing a prime example of, you've worked at Google, and you're at Peloton now, and like, you don't have that degree. And so it just goes to show you that that degree, while it can be useful, is not the end all be all. You can still be very, very successful without spending 50, 60, $70,000 on a college degree. And anybody watching this, I'm not saying I endorse don't go into college, but I don't want anybody to think that I have to go and do that in order to be successful.
Yeah, there are alternate options, and I think for me it's been really challenging. I mean, there have been so many people along the way that have said to me, "Oh, you'll never make more than X amount per year because you don't have a degree. Nobody's going to hire you full time. Oh, Ashley, that's never going to work." And I think it was my own stubbornness and my own drive to want to prove those people wrong that pushed me along farther. I also didn't, really have a safety net to fall back on. I'm sure that there are other people out there that may not have a super supportive family or a family that can support them financially. So sometimes your only option is just to keep going, and it can be really lonely and really challenging, but there is always a light at the end of the tunnel, and that's what I tell myself whenever I'm in those dark times, is that, like, the light's coming, it's going to be fine, just got to keep pushing forward, even if that means you take a break here and there. But yeah.
So if somebody is watching this and they are going, man, Ashley has a really cool job, because you're working with creativity, you're
Yeah.
working with design, you are making sure that products are received better and are used better. What would it look like if somebody wanted to kind of, where would they start learning how to be a UX researcher and, kind of get to the point to where you are?
Yeah. So I would say the first thing that you need to do, just regardless of whatever role you want to be in, or whatever field you want to be in, you need to first believe that it's possible. And I know that people will say that throughout your lifetime, and just anything's possible if you just believe it. It's kind of cheesy and it's a little cliche, but it's very true. If you don't have that belief in yourself first, nobody else is going to believe in you the way that you do. So first, believe in yourself. Anything is really possible. I think the next thing that you could probably do is find somebody who has the role that you want. I've had so many people reach out to me on LinkedIn and say, "Hey, can I have like a 10-minute networking call with you? I'm really interested in user experience research, and I'd love to pick your brain a little bit." And I've taken those calls because I've been in that position where I've had to reach out to people in the role that I wanted and say, "Hey, can I ask you some questions?" So I think that's the second thing, is find somebody that has the role that you want. See if you can connect with them. If you can't connect with them, observe them. It's kind of like research. Just sit back and watch and listen. And then I think the third thing that you probably need to do is, once you establish that connection with that person, if you're able to, I would ask them if they're able to allow you to assist them on anything. Researchers are super busy. They would jump at the opportunity for somebody to take a second to assist them in exchange for experience. And I don't think that that's uncommon to do, is to ask for somebody to allow you to help them out. I think the next thing is just continue to network, because that one person may not be who connects you to your next job. So just continue to network, and eventually, update your resume to match the skills of the job that you want. So say there's a job and you read the description and you're like, "Okay, well, I don't have this skill. I don't have this one." Take a look at your resume and say, "What do I have on my resume that I can transfer that could help me in this role? And how can I showcase that on my resume?" So take a really good look at your resume and say, "All right, I have this skill. So for me, for nannying, how I transferred this skill." Oh my gosh, that resume, I need to print it and put it on a wall. It's kind of funny. I knew that I had experience managing people and managing relationships with the parents that I worked for. So I took that skill and I honed in on it, and I made it transferable and relatable to the position that I was going into, where I needed to manage relationships and partnerships with stakeholders and researchers and product managers. And that's what I did. And I think the last thing that you can do is just apply yourself. Keep applying to jobs, keep networking, just rinse and repeat, until you can't anymore and you're where you want to be. So
Did you Did you take any like I don't know, like a boot camp or a certification course, or did you get? Because I like what you said about hey, finding somebody that's in that role, which is kind of what I did. Where I'm doing
Yeah.
a marketing internship, is I just started contacting people that were in marketing. And go, hey, can I do some stuff,
Yeah.
anything, just to put it on my resume? And and somebody was like, okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
So, and so just learning a ton there. But in your case, the UX design is a little bit more technical than some aspects of marketing. Some aspects of marketing are very, very technical. But for UX design, did you do any boot camp certification courses, or what hands-on learning did you get to get where you're at now?
I didn't do any boot camps, and I think the UX boot camps can be a little bit controversial from what I've seen. People talk about them. There's, big controversy. Is it worth it? Is it not worth it? I don't really know. I've never taken them, so I can't really speak to that. But what I did do is in my first role at Google, there were so many side projects that management would come to us and they'd say, hey, do you want to work on this? And there were some teammates that I had that were like, well, I'm not getting paid extra to do that. I'm not doing it. And my thought was, well, I was just hungry. If I can learn whatever they throw at me, oh, I'm putting this on my resume. Are you kidding me? This is free experience. I'd love to do this. So for me, I didn't take any boot camps or anything like that. And I think that there are a lot of great ones out there. And I've worked with a lot of people who have taken boot camps that have gained a lot of experience. But I think UX research is a little different from UX design in that, for example, the researchers that I work with, out of all the researchers I work with, there is only one that was trained in UX design and who took classes in UX design. All others have, different backgrounds and other degrees and fields. So it's really interesting because, we just all come together and we all have this understanding that we just want to make experiences more seamless and better for our users. And we all kind of what is the word I'm looking for? We all kind of bond on the fact that we are just constantly learning.
Okay.
That is our foundation. So whatever piece of, however you can learn, I'd say go for it.
So one question that the students always ask: how
Yeah.
much money do they make? So, for a UX researcher, what is the salary range? Say starting out, and I know it can be crazy depending on the company,
Yeah.
but let's just look at what is the low end of it all the way to the high end of it.
I think it also depends on your location. I would say anywhere from 100K to 160K. It's pretty big range.
And are
Yeah,
you working remote?
I am.
Okay, cool. That was another big question. Do they
Yeah.
get to work from home? Do they get to work from home? Because there is. I think with COVID, it's really changed a lot of things. I have a neighbor who was working for Cox Communications, and I think at one, I don't think they would ever have gone remote. Well, the technicians, they have to go pick up their equipment, but
Yeah.
what they found was after the last, I don't know, about 2 years that they've been remote, the amount of money that they have saved from not having thousands of people in a building,
Oh yeah.
they have all said, yeah, let's just stay remote. But an interesting thing happened out of that. There was like my neighbor Justin, he goes, I loved it, and then I got really lonely, and there was a lot of people that I guess they were getting almost introverted because they weren't going out anymore, and so they started doing things like they had a every morning there was a like a virtual meeting that they would have for 30 minutes, and so you could kind of at least get a little bit of face
Yeah.
to face. But I was like, "How you like it?" And he goes, "I loved it." Now he goes, I need to talk to people."
Yeah, it can be lonely. I think that there is, still the option to go back into the office. If I do go back into the office, I'll move to New York City, which is really exciting. So I have the option to do that. For us and our team and our culture, it's pretty great. There's no complaints. I mean, we all work together to make sure. I mean, we all had to meet each other virtually. It's kind
Right.
of weird. I met all of these people last year, and I feel super connected and close with them. And it's just because we have a great team that focuses on team bonding and creating those relationships, because those relationships are so foundational to the work that you do. If you don't have good relationships with your coworkers or your colleagues, the work that you do is going to be really challenging at times. So we have weekly meetings where it's just, we don't work at all, and we just, get to know each other, and we'll do like a would you rather question that's something silly, and just get to talk and chat with each other. So it's been really great. I love it.
Yeah, I think what is really kind of interesting about the whole situation is, there are so many jobs that you know, if I wanted certain positions, I almost had to work in New York City, or I had, California, kind of the coast of Silicon Valley. And now, you can live anywhere and almost work anywhere, and you get that ability to just meet all sorts of people all over the world. And so, speaking of kind of, you were talking about that mentorship. This is, I think, a very, very important question that a lot of my students don't think about is mentorship. So, talk for a second about how important, and I know it was, you was important to you, but how important do you think mentorship is, and what would you consider a mentor?
Oh my gosh, it's mentorship is so important. I wish that I had a mentor when I was, high school, middle school. I just I think that a mentor is somebody that you can look up to and get advice from, and feel comfortable asking all the questions. It's a vulnerable place to be, to want something and not be there, and to sit in the same room with somebody that has it. You kind of have to humble yourself. But I think once you do that, it can be anybody. I mean, it could be your best friend's mom, who maybe has experience doing, something that you're interested in, or that you at least respect, because I think that a lot of the experience that just humans have in general across different fields is transferable. It can apply to multiple different things. So whether you're a software engineer, or you're the CEO, or you're, an admin assistant or executive assistant, I think there's certain, pieces of knowledge that we can pass on to each other, that is helpful in every field and every role. So it could be anybody. It could be your mom's, your friend's mom, or it could be your older brother. Maybe they're in college and you're still in high school. There's Anybody can be a mentor, really. Oh, I think you're muted.
Good call out. Good call. Um, yeah, and so I think that mentors can, and you can find them all over the place. And
Yeah.
I think sometimes we think of mentors as these people that are super brilliant and like way above us, and they're and I like how you said kind of mentors can be anybody. As if they're teaching you something, then it's essentially like a mentorship.
Yeah, and I don't think that every one person has everything figured out. I think that
Right.
we're just all figuring out as we go along, and some people may have figured out something that you're just trying to figure out. And I think that's when you can lean on them and consider them a mentor, is when they've been through something that you're trying to gain an understanding of. I think that's really who can be a mentor, and it anybody at any phase of life could be a mentor, really.
All right. So here's the hot seat question for you. If you could give yourself one piece of advice, thinking back to when you were in, say, middle school or high school, what would it be?
That's a really challenging question. Like there are a few things. I think that I would just say, keep believing and don't stop dreaming, because whatever it is that you can dream is possible. Anything you can dream can be a reality if you want to make it that. So that's what I would say. I'm fully a dreamer. I think that anything is possible, and I will continue to believe that until I'm proven otherwise. So that's the piece of advice that I would give myself. Just keep dreaming and keep going.
It's interesting you said that. I was having a conversation with yesterday, and she said kind of almost the same thing.
Yeah.
And it made me think of our neighbor who has a daughter, and she's about 7, and so she walks up and down the road, and so she has this sign, and it says, dog walking, $5, pick up trash in your yard, $4. And so she's got all these, like, there's about a dozen little jobs that she's like, I'll do this. And she's always adding to it, you know. And, and I had to think to myself, she does that because nobody said that she can't do that. And so I feel like the older we get, you start coming up with new ideas or think, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And sometimes the closest allies that you have, your friends and family, can be the biggest pessimists for it. They'll be like,
Yep.
oh, I don't know. But man, when it's kind of like if kid goes and sets up a lemonade stand, like we high five them, they're an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
good job. If I go set up a lemonade stand, people are going to be like, Josh, get off, what are you doing, get off the corner. Like,
Exactly. And it's interesting because I think that the older you get, you lose your sense of wonder. And I think that, the world can kind of take a toll on you. Becoming an adult and getting into the real world, it can kind of drag you down a little bit and make you forget, like all the fun things, like growing up as a child, seeing the world through a child's eyes. You're just in a maze and in awe of everything that you see. And I think that it's so important as an adult and going into whatever career that you want to go into, or just in life in general, that you don't forget that sense of wonder, and you really keep searching for, magic, because it's really out there. And I know that's silly, but it's true.
You're right. No, you are right. So,
Oh.
all right. Well, Ashley, I can't thank you enough. This has been like a great chat, and I
Thank you.
appreciate all your wisdom and everything like that. And we will definitely be in touch soon.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.